Try to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark, aka Derringer. Today is Sunday, July 16th, and you are listening to episode 114 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. First up this week, I wanted to thank everyone who was using my Amazon link on Prime Day. As you guys know, Amazon Prime Day was June 11th this year, so last week, and there were lots of cool discounts and things like that, and I definitely see a few of you were on there buying stuff, and I greatly appreciate that support. Otherwise, what's been going on for me this past week? Well, I've been on vacation all week. My job, I'm not going to lie, they give me too much vacation each year, and I have a tough time using it all. Yeah, I know, first world problems for Derringer. So I kind of had to take a week off just to use some time, and my brother-in-law and his family have been in from California for the week visiting us on the East Coast. Unfortunately, it did rain some time, but it did give me a chance to go through, and if you follow me on Twitter, see that I completed my basement remodel. Not so much remodel, but more than anything, just taking all my equipment and moving it out of the small room that I've been playing in and recording in and doing all kinds of stuff in, and moving it into a bigger room in the basement with a small window and definitely much more room. So I included a quick video on Twitter on the Derringer if you guys are curious to see. You know, I've got all my geek stuff set up on my shelving units. I've got a nice big TV with the PlayStation 4 connected to it. And I have my gaming rig all set up down here as well, which is also my quote-unquote recording studio. So I spent the week, during the week, rewiring it because I didn't really want to do Wi-Fi in my basement for my PC and the PlayStation 4 and things like that. So I was running a lot of Cat 5e cable around my basement, and it's quite actually enjoyable to sit and watch TV as you create Cat 5e connections, you know, getting those little colored strands into the connectors themselves and lining them up. I watched at least one show. I was watching stuff on the DIY network for a while I was creating Cat 5e cables. It's very soothing, so I recommend if you need to just take your mind off things and somebody needs Cat 5e cables, go out and buy a roll of Cat 5e and some connectors and things like that and just sit down for a while and start making that. But again, like I said, I rewired this entire room with Cat 5e cables through the walls and some new hookups, and got everything connected back into my router, and everything is running at tip-top speed. So whereas I was using Wi-Fi for the PlayStation 4 and the smart TV before, now that's all hardwired in through a switch, plus my computer's all hardwired in. So like I said, my whole setup down here is designed completely for speed. So I am going to be looking into getting into a little bit more PlayStation 4 side of Planetside 2 as soon as I can, now that I'm hot wired in. And my daughter seems to be slowing down in playing Persona 5, so maybe I will be able to get my hands on the PlayStation 4 and stop her from using it. But otherwise, I've been playing a heck of a lot of Planetside 2. Like I said, being on vacation, once I get everything set up, I could just plop into Planetside 2 in the middle of the day and play. And I actually did that a few times where I had nothing going on. It was raining outside. I logged into Planetside 2 in the middle of the day and started sniping people for shits and giggles from the spawn room. And I've been working on my Lasher. I've been working on my light assault directives. As of this recording right now, it's, like I said, it's Sunday night. I am 88 kills from Araxiuming my second Lasher. So on my character, the Derringer, on Emerald, I Araxiumed the regular version of the Lasher a while ago. And now I'm just finishing up Araximing the AE version of the lasher right now. The AE version is what we got. I think it was on either the second anniversary bundle. It came in there. You also got the AE version of the jackhammer and the mini chain gun as well. But the one I use the most is the lasher. I really like the lasher. It is probably my favorite weapon in the game. And I hate to say that because people yell at me constantly when I use the lasher because obviously it hits a lot of friendly players. I will say, though, in using the lasher, and like I said, I am pretty close to Araximing my second lasher, that I have never once been weapon locked while using the lasher. So those who say it's not possible, it is possible. In fact, as soon as I'm done recording tonight, I'm going to log in and try and finish up those 88 kills. I think I was pushing hard yesterday, and I had 150 or something in a 2-hour, 3-hour play session. So maybe I can do the same thing again tonight and just finish that bad boy up. But what is actually in store for this week's show, rather than sit and bore you with rewiring my basement with Cat 5e and playing with the lasher? Well, I have a pair of hotfixes to talk about, both PC and PlayStation 4. I also have a topic about integrating player-made bases into the main game that I want to cover. And finally, I want to finish up with a Recursion stat tracker video that Nico101 put out that I've been meaning to talk about as well. I also got a good email from a listener that I want to talk about on how to get better in Planetside 2 if you are a newer player. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, first up this week, July 12th, we got a PC hotfix. And again, since this is just a hotfix, it's not a regular game update, so it's mostly fixing bugs and other things that are going on. So starting with infantry changes, and these are all related to implants. First, the deep operative implant. This is your infiltrator implant. The rank 5 detection sweep will now properly trigger while being spotted. The sensor shield, ranks 4 and 5, detection immunity is now continued up to 15 meters from a detection device instead of 25 meters, so that was actually reduced a bit. The robotics technician, this is the one that I wanted to love the most as engineer, but absolutely hate. What they changed this is the damage-resistant element of the implant now applies to engineers mounted in their turrets, as well as the turret itself. So obviously the damage resistance itself that you're getting is 10% at rank 1 and all the way up to 25% at ranks 4 and also 25% at rank 5. So certainly it's going to give you a bit of resistance to incoming damage, and I haven't tested it myself, but I'm wondering if we're going to be able to survive sniper headshots now while you're mounted in your turret itself. So maybe robotics technician is not 100% worthless at this point. I'm really not doing my turret directives anymore, so don't have too much reason to be in a turret, but maybe I need to go in and rank up robotics technician now to actually use this. Next, combat surgeon. Reviving an ally with rank 5 will now properly apply small armed resistance, and for the time being this is going to stack with nanoweave armor, but when they do a later update it's going to override it as intended. So again, if you are a medic running combat surgeon, use it with nanoweave while you can before they go and make a change to it. Moving along to vehicles, regarding tank handling, they reverted a change that was made to the tank handling mechanics that affected reverse steering and maneuvering on certain slopes. I'm not sure if this has completely fixed the issues that harasser drivers were complaining about, but I do know that it has fixed some of the issues that players in the Lightning, the Prowler, and the Vanguard were having. So if you've been shying away from them because of tank handling issues, you can certainly hop back into them. Next, IR Smoke got its revamp, and this was something that I discussed last week as a PTS item. It did not last on the PTS very long, so IR Smoke is now gone. It is renamed Smokescreen, and also the Sunderer's Smokescreen ability was replaced with this. And what it's going to do is emit smoke for 8 seconds at all ranks, with a cooldown from 40, 35, 32, or 30 seconds. It's also going to immediately clear current spot markers for you and allied vehicles within 30 meters. And it's also going to prevent lock-on attempts for that 8 seconds for you and allied vehicles within 30 meters. And it's also going to mask your vehicle's minimap auto spot signature for you and all allied vehicles within 30 meters. Again, this is a huge change to team play regarding ants, flashes, harassers, sunderers, lightnings, and main battle tanks. Not everyone is going to need to do this, but if you are in a coordinated tank column, like say you and your outfit are running armor ops for the evening, you probably want to have one or two of your lightnings or your main battle tanks with IR or now Smokescreen installed, because of the huge thing that does for all allied vehicles within 30 meters, especially if you're getting rained down upon by lock-on rockets or things like that, because it's going to prevent those lock-on attempts for 8 seconds. And that's certainly going to stymie a lot of heavy assault players who are crutching on their lock-on weapons. I know I am certainly use the Annihilator a lot, so this would be something that would certainly stymie me for those 8 seconds and allow you to get into some sort of cover. So again, not everyone is going to need to use Smokescreen, but I think we're going to be able to, or at least a few of you are going to be able to start adding Smokescreen to your main battle tanks or other vehicles and actually get some use out of this. It is kind of a niche ability, but I like the changes, and I'm kind of excited to see something like this added to the game, because I like the fact that it's making that there is no standard loadout that you should do in your vehicles, that they are allowing some mixing and matching. I always feel that when there's the ability to mix and match different loadouts and things like that, it makes the game a lot less stale. There were some other miscellaneous additions and adjustments. First, the Freedom Thrusters have been removed from the game. I hope you guys enjoyed those. I thought they were cool to look at, but I did not like how they launched you straight up in the air so high. I mean, I didn't really like them that much. I also don't like the fact that when I log in now, I get 3 notifications that Freedom Thrusters have been disabled. So hopefully they don't run into that next time they add some neat new thing to the game. They did also remove the help button on the implant screen. I know that's something I talked about last week as a UI item that should be removed. Clearly that was easier than getting a UI person to actually work on it. And finally, Coltier should no longer count towards continent rotation or spawn an additional ghost instance for PC players. Again, a very small hotfix and a very small subset of things were fixed, changed, things like that. Obviously, the big ones, that tank handling for vehicles is one that a lot of players are complaining about, so it's good to see that change coming into this game. And Smokescreen is something that I'm going to play around with next time I have a chance to, when I run some sort of armor ops with friends. And with that, let's move on to the PlayStation 4 hotfix for Planetside 2. All right, as I said, PC got their hotfix, but so did the PlayStation 4. This hit both the US and the EU server on July 12th as well. The vehicle handling changes that I mentioned in the PC side also got fixed on the PlayStation 4, and this should fix a lot of those issues where people were sliding all over the place. I believe many people likened it to Tokyo drifting, things like that. And I certainly watched quite a few videos of people's tanks sliding when they really should not have been sliding at all. Those issues should have been taken care of with this hotfix. If not, make sure you continue to complain about them on Reddit so that the devs can see that it's still happening. Please keep posting videos. PlayStation 4 folks, if you're still getting them. But I'm under the impression that the majority of those issues should have been fixed. Next, IR Smoke also changed on PC, also changed on PlayStation 4 as well. It is also renamed Smokescreen. It also has all those same things. It's really designed, again, to increase the value in team play and give players some additional ability to choose rather than the current go-tos. It's going to be... I'm excited to see it on PlayStation 4 side as well. Miscellaneous adjustments, Freedom Thrusters again gone, and Cold Tier also corrected, just like on the PC side. Like I said, since you guys don't have implants, the implants yet on the PlayStation 4, those changes didn't make it over to the PlayStation 4 side, and they certainly didn't need to. So it will be interesting. Hopefully, those changes that we see on the PC side when implants are finally released on the PlayStation 4, that you guys will get those changes all as well. So again, very small hotfix. I think the tank handling was probably the biggest one on the PlayStation 4. So if you have been steering away because of it, steering, get it, joke, tank, then you can certainly feel like logging back into the PlayStation 4 side and play it a little more. But with that, let's move on to topic number 3 this week. All right, topic 3 was a post that I saw on Reddit this week about how to integrate player-made bases into the main game. And this is something that I've mentioned in the past, but something that still has not been done in the game, because as we know, player bases are still very underutilized and there isn't a lot of combat happening to them. There's very little reward for building a bases right now, and you don't gain anything unless the base is actually attacked. There's really no objective in a player base with ground vehicles. You don't see a lot of glaives or orbital strikes even happening because bases are kind of off on their own. And there's really no squad leadership incentive regarding player-made bases or anything like that. So I think that it's time that... And this is kind of moving away from what the Reddit post was actually talking about. But I think we're at a point in Planetside 2's life where we should think about moving on from player-made bases being separate solo things. Out there in the middle of nowhere that nobody can attack, or not that nobody can attack, but that very few people are even playing with, and most people... never even spawn there if they can certainly help it. I think it's time for Daybreak Games to kind of rethink the way player-made bases work within the game itself. And again, this topic on Reddit really made me step back and think about how it's working in-game right now and how I think that it should be changed going forward. And like I said, I think we've hit a point where there's no reason why player-made bases should not be able to be built within existing structures. We've seen Ickenham. It's on live now, and people are able to build on top of Ickenham. Unfortunately, with Ickenham itself, they've made ways that you can just skirt around it and never have to attack there, which I think is a mistake. But either way, we've seen it with Ickenham, so we know it's doable that players are able to build bases on top of something, and players will attack or defend or do whatever they want on that particular base. Again, I think we've come to a point now where we should start lifting these, they're not no deploy zones, but no build zones around static bases within the game itself. I think with the number of people saying that Planetside 2 is dying, or Planetside 2 is going through a lull, or not many people are playing Planetside 2 anymore, and you're losing a lot of players in Planetside 2, I think that this could be the next big thing to kind of turn stuff around, because what allowing player-made bases to be made anywhere within the game itself is it's going to give veteran players something to do, because no longer will there be the standard attack this point from this direction, because now a wrench could be thrown into it that funnels players in a completely different direction, because, hey, now there's a wall there that wasn't there before, or hey, now there's a turret here that wasn't there before. Again, I think we've hit the point in the life of Planetside 2 where construction should be buildable everywhere. I don't think that it's going to affect gameplay as much as many people think, but I really want to see something new within the game itself. I mean, yes, Rel can go on Twitter and say that he's updating this base or that base, or he's building or redoing the crown or redoing TI alloys, things like that. That's all well and good, but you've got a set item within the game that will allow players to do a lot of the same things that the developers are doing within the game itself. And then we can pull some of those resources away from redesigning bases by the developers and funnel them into fixing some of the other issues within the game itself. Like, let's say, the ability to do things like play the game at a steady FPS because there's still performance issues here or there, or get somebody to actually learn more UI development stuff and fix some of the UI issues that are within the game itself, or heck, finalize this combined arm stuff that they've been talking about for a number of months now that we're still not seeing on live, and get some of this stuff onto live rather than just talk about it and have players complain about it. So again, I don't want to just continue to beat a dead horse on this one, but I think that it is time that we make construction a whole or overarching thing within the game itself, and allow these player bases to be built anywhere within the game. It's going to allow glaive strikes in more places. It's going to allow orbital strikes in more places. I mean, how many Zergs do you think are going to get absolutely broken up when an orbital strike hits them and directs them in a different direction? It's things like that I want to see in Planetside 2, and kind of mix things up for these veteran players that are getting burnt out of the game itself by forcing them to think of new ways to attack different places, because there could be some construction thing thrown in their path and make things more difficult. I just think that we're getting to a point within Planetside 2 where we need to throw a wrench into the static, every day is the same type of gameplay, and move on to something more interesting. I'm curious if anybody agrees or disagrees. Please, feel free to debate me on this within the Reddit post. I'm open to anybody else's comments or thoughts or suggestions on this. This is just my thoughts and where I think we are within the game itself. I'd like to see something new within the game. I feel like I'm constantly hitting the same bases every night, and like I said, getting that every day is exactly the same kind of mentality within Planetside 2. I do not want to burn out on Planetside 2, especially with some interesting games coming down the pipeline. Like I saw the information about the Star Citizen update that is kind of interesting, and I've kind of stayed away from Star Citizen, and the EA's Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Seems like a lot of the issues that were in the original Battlefront might be fixed in the next version of the Battlefront. And while I'm not excited about the smaller map styles, I do love the Star Wars universe. So again, I'm beating this topic to death, so feel free to debate me in Reddit, on the forums, or anywhere that I post this particular show, because I'm curious what other people think as well. And if this is something that we should start moving forward with, maybe we can start voicing this to the devs as well, and see if we can get a response from them on this as well. With that, let's kind of close this particular topic and move on to the last one this week. All right, topic number 4 this week is the Recursion stat tracker. And it's been a while since I've talked about the Recursion stat tracker. I don't even know if I've ever talked about the RS Recursion stat tracker on the Instant Action podcast. I know we talked about it a ton on Reachcast when it originally came out. So if I haven't talked about it much, I apologize. I use Recursion constantly. You know, it's something that I have running in every game that I play, every Planetside 2 session that I play on all my characters. I love the additional things it adds. I love the overlay of it. There's just so much good stuff within the stat tracker. And like I said, Nico 101 put out a YouTube guide about the stat tracker, and it's short, but he goes through all the main points of adding, installing it, adding mods to it, like a crosshair overlay, which is something I use. He also shows you how to add voice packs to it. Voice packs are when certain things happen to you within game. It pops up a little image on your screen, and you hear some sort of funny sound or comment or things like that. I use the Rick and Morty voice pack a lot in my Recursion sessions because I find it quite amusing. I love Rick and Morty. I'm going to include a link to Nico 101's YouTube video of this if you guys are curious about the stat tracker itself. So you can go and download it as well and play with it. A few things to note that he didn't mention. It is the only third-party program that I'm aware of that is fully approved for use by the game developers. Daybreak Games has come out and helped the folks who put this together access their servers, access the API, and get the information that they need so that all players can use this stat tracker while they're playing Planetside 2. Again, the fact that this is approved by Daybreak Games for use in their game is huge. So that's kind of a big one. Like I said, I love it. It adds some additional elements to the game itself. It lets me know when I go on some good killing sprees, or after I've revived a ton of players, or all kind of get a bunch of kills or things like that. It's definitely good. And like I said, the crosshair overlay is really nice. It's nice to add some special crosshairs to your game itself. If you ever go to my Twitch channel when I'm playing and I've got Recursion up and running, you can see the different overlays, the crosshair overlays that I'm using within the game itself. Recursion is a nice little addition to Planetside 2, and something that I recommend anybody who can run it to have it running alongside. You don't even have to be streaming on Twitch to use the Recursion stat tracker, even though it's good to have loaded up while you're playing as well. Again, it's just a little addition to the game itself that adds a little additional amount of fun to my play sessions each time I do it. So again, I'll include a link to Nico 101's video. Also, you can just Google Recursion stat tracker, Recursion, Recursion, and you'll find Reddit posts on it. You'll find their website, and a bunch of different resources for it to install it and use it within Planetside 2. I use it. The devs have approved of it. So if those aren't two reasons to go ahead and use it, I don't know what else is. And with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
Like I said at the beginning of the show, I did get an email from Mordak this week, and he wrote, "I just wanted to say thank you for putting this show out. I have been an online gamer since the 90s, and I always wanted a show I could listen to get me through work till I could play the game again, LOL. Second, you may have covered this on one of your podcasts, but I'm working on my way through them all on iTunes. I am new to Planetside and started on the NC. Well, not completely new, but I haven't played since just after beta. Anyway, in FPSs, I usually always play the guys with LMGs. But one thing I have noticed is I'm losing 75% of my fights, and I think it's due to others having a higher BR and sorted out characters. Any suggestions for us newer guys after Coltier?" First, Mordak, thank you for the email. And clearly you're playing Heavy Assault. I think that's the favored class of many high KD and IVI players. In fact, some of the best players I know play Heavy Assault almost exclusively. That being said, as a new player in Planetside 2 or a returning player in Planetside 2, you might want to take a step back and try out all of the classes. If anything, you're going to earn free implants from completing the novice directives for each class, excluding the max. And I don't know what implants you have been using currently as Heavy Assault. Even if you have any implants as Heavy Assault, you certainly might not. Well, you should have a few. If you've been playing Heavy Assault, you might have completed the novice of the first one. But definitely go and play around as an infiltrator, finish off that novice, play around as light assault, engineer, medic, try to unlock all those novice. You're going to earn 2 implants every time you finish the novice directive. They're just going to be regular implants, but certainly any of them are going to be better than none of them. You should have 2 implants on at all times on your characters. Like I said, I don't know which ones you have. I've been running Battle Hardened and the Ocular one to stop flinch and have less hits from incoming grenades on my Heavy Assaults. That might be something you want to shoot for. I know other people run Cat-like instead. Some people run Carapace instead. Some people are using the Nanoweave Specialist or Assimilate. There's certainly a ton of different choices that you can use. Then once you're done playing around with all the classes, you might find one that you like better than Heavy Assault. But if you do come back to Heavy Assault, you want to make sure that you're using a good loadout. Now, for me, when I first started getting good at being a Heavy Assault, and I am nowhere near good as a Heavy Assault, my outfit recommended that I run with Resist Shield and Advanced Shield Capacitor to start. That may not be what everyone recommends, but Resist Shield is going to give you a flat-out 40% adjustment to health, and the Advanced Shield Capacitor is going to let your shields regenerate. And, of course, it's going to last longer the higher your rank, but and you want to be popping the Resist Shield at the beginning of engagements rather than later on in the engagement, because you'll certainly be able to mitigate damage better earlier on in the engagement. So you're a lot of pre-popping this shield, and again, the ASC Advanced Shield Capacitor is going to regen that shield a lot faster for you. So certainly those 2 things are going to that's a recommendation given to me, and recommendation that I would give to you. Next, you want to look at the weapons that you're using and maybe the engagements that you're fighting these people. If you're losing 75% of your fights, again, are these close quarter combat fights? Are they ranged fights? I find that I have a lot of close quarters combat with my Heavy Assault, and I do play a decent amount of NC. So I think I would probably recommend either looking into purchasing the LA1 Anchor or the GD22S over the default LMG. And I know the default LMG is Gauss Saw, which a lot of people don't like. I didn't really like it myself either. I am 100% an Anchor convert ever since AFLIC basically told me to go and do it, to go and buy it, and I've been using it ever since. The Anchor is pretty darn good in closer engagements. Like I said, I find myself popping around a lot of corners and having people in front of me and just unloading on them with the Anchor, whereas the GD22S is a little bit better at longer ranges, not super long ranges, but more out to medium ranges. I would definitely look into picking up one or the other or both. Like I said, I am an Anchor fan or an Anchor baby, so that's the way that I am going. The next thing that I would recommend, and if you're not on Reddit, get on Reddit, because, well, maybe before this one, I'd say go over to Iridar's website, because he has a pretty good article about Heavy Assaults. He has a whole bunch of beginning player things there as well. But his Heavy Assault guide certainly goes through all the information about playing a Heavy Assault. Maybe not how to get better as playing a heavy assault, but a lot of the basics as playing a heavy assault. And then the last thing that I think I would suggest is, if you're not on Reddit, get on Reddit and go to the Planetside 2 Reddit and record some of your gameplay. And then post that gameplay, to YouTube or whatnot, and allow the Reddit community to critique you and say that you're looking to get better at playing heavy assault. There are a number of good players there who are more than happy to watch your play session. Record a half hour or something. It doesn't even have to be a ton of time. And record some of your gameplay. Post it up for people to see, and they can make suggestions on what you might be doing wrong and some things that you can change for the game itself. If you are going to record your gameplay, the first thing I would probably recommend is go to your mouse sensitivity screen and record that as well, because I know that I got a lot better as a player once I started playing around with my mouse sensitivities, really, lowering them to levels I would have never considered moving them down to. And it certainly changed the way that I play Planetside 2 by doing that. So again, if you do record your gameplay, start with that screen so people can see, what your actual starting values are. They're probably the default values that Planetside 2 gives you, and that I know most heavy assault or good heavy assault players have changed at this point. I know this has gotten to be a pretty long response, so I hope those 4 suggestions that I've given you, try other classes first, get some implants, get a better gun. Like I said, I prefer the Anchor over everything else as an LMG. Go to Iridar's website, check out his guides, and third, record some of your stuff and put it up on YouTube and then post it to the Reddit so people can critique it. Those are the first steps that I would say for heavy assault, and this goes to anybody listening to this show. If you're having trouble playing a particular class, people on Reddit will be more than happy to look at what you're doing and give some suggestions. I've seen plenty of posts where people have asked, how do I get better? And one of the things suggested is post your gameplay so that people can see it. Yeah, you might get some salty responses to it, but if you're really looking to get better at the game, those are some of my suggestions for you. So I certainly hope that helps. And just so you're not worried, I don't know that I've really gone over this stuff before on another episode. So I will have to bookmark episode 114 if anybody asks me that question again. But again, thank you for the email, Mordak. So that is going to be it for this week's show. And how can you guys get in touch with me or the show itself? As always, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Send me an email like Mordak did at instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can always call me, leave me a voicemail. That number's 347-486-4772 or 347-4VM4PS2. The show's Twitter account is at InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is at The Derringer. So in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.